Welcome back to Main Gate Darbar. We've quite a few new faces who have come in, and I think this has grown quite organically. We've had quite a few sessions and lots more interesting ones coming up. And the co-host plays as much an important role as the person who's speaking. So, without putting pressure, Alan is the man who's there today, and we have Kataria, who everybody knows. She's been doing some interesting films, did art direction before that. So Alan's going to be taking us and hosting it, taking us through her journey. It's a conversation which they both will have. And I'm going to now pass it on to Alan so he can start off. I'll
Yeah, it really.
guys with some
Yeah,
polls.
thank you, Sajid. It really feels like the time ना basketball court में ragging में किसी का chance आ जाता था ना मेरा और कटारिया का chance आ गया to be in front of these people. ठीक है. So I'll start now where I met Kataria. So there is this list of names, which is there when you join an ID. कि you want to know who are your classmates. So I wanted to go and check that list of names. So उधर ना एक छोटा सा लड़की था वो names पढ़ रहा था and our batch had like a really I don't know whether you noticed it or not, but set of names which are really funny. So there is Usha Rekha Puttachari, there is Dinesh Dandapat, Kanupriya Dhandaria, there is Priyanka Suhag, there is Peter Footing, there is Kullu Hro, and the list is endless. Charlotte Sugathan, Samir Parker, and so she was going through all these names, and then she read Alan Satyajit Shaw, and she said, I would like to meet this guy. So I got really happy, this girl saying that. So I was like looking and like, oh, that would be me. She looked at me like full disappointment. So Kataria can explain that, but I understood that she was disappointed कि name और ये match नहीं हो रहा है.
That's
So
true. Whoever's from our batch here will remember he didn't look like Alan Satyajit Shaw. अब लग रहा है थोड़ा दाढ़ी वाड़ी बढ़ा के.
ठीक है. So then we figured me and Ajmera ना we figured कि ये थोड़ा stud type का है. Tight pair of trousers cut right at the boot length, and then there was these very like leather shoes. उसमें थोड़ा sound भी था, उसको mute में नहीं रख सकते थे. And she would walk with this attitude. So me and Ajmera decided कि यार ये छोटा stud है ना, तो उसका नाम रख दिया छोटा stud. And then me and Ajmera used to like pretend कि हम उसके ना bodyguards हैं, sidekicks. उसके साथ wherever she was walking, we would just pretend like that we are holding guns. So that was, and we also used to call her PSD, like not because of Photoshop, but pocket-sized dada. ऐसा नाम रखा था, and then छोटा stud kind of stuck to her, and we used to call her that. Now we were being ragged, and there was this whole thing about people used to say students, not faculty से अभी हमारा interaction नहीं हुआ था. They used to talk about this thing कि इसको attitude problem है. Some students were like just seniors would say that. तो मेरे को तो कुछ ज़्यादा समझ में नहीं आता था attitude problem. Now we cut to हमारा foundation शुरू हो गया. And then you have these yoga classes which was imposed on us, like कि ये आपको दिन के foundation के session के बाद you have to do yoga. So we all said okay, if you have to do there is authority who's saying that. So Vandana refused. So Dhimant Panchal was our coordinator. He said, what do you mean? So she said, no, this was not a part of our curriculum. So I would not do it. And he tried to explain, at least give it a chance. She said, no, I don't want to give it a chance. I want my peace. So Kataria can throw some light on that one. And so that moment I understood what is an attitude problem. This is an attitude problem. So, I really want to ask you this question. Where does that come from? I would like to go back to your childhood and ask you, were you always like this, or you became like this? Yeah.
Well, I think some of it is genetic. I think my dad has a bit of an attitude problem, which I have imbibed. But I have to confess that I think I was a deeply socially awkward person when I came to NID. That was all my defense mechanisms and hubris showing up. And I think I had what is called Napoleon syndrome, small packet. So I had to assert myself loudly and choda hoke everywhere. Uh, some of it is gone. Some of it still appears again when I'm on sets, I think, working with large numbers of people. So, yeah.
Okay. I really think that it's a part of you. It has been there and it's still there, but it's mellowed down quite a lot. And of course, we friends, so we know you a little differently. So we know that side of you where you're sweet and all, which people will come to know, maybe, hopefully. ठीक है.
Yes.
So we go back to boarding school because I believe you spent, you went there quite early, and I would like you to run us through that period of your time and how did it shape you?
So, I mean, I went to boarding school at the age of 6 actually. It didn't even, hadn't learned how to tie shoelaces or didn't know how to bathe myself, etc. But because my, both my parents had traveling jobs, dad was in the army, mother used to travel with the WHO, etc. So they wanted to give us a good education, stable education. So they packed us off to boarding school. And I have to say, my happiest memories were my childhood formative years, class 1, 2, 3, 4. Were really happy. But I think that Napoleon syndrome started coming on somewhere in my teens, my pre-pubescent age years, and it went on. I was a really good student academically. Uh, Always did. I mean, I ended up doing science. I topped school in biology. I wanted to be a doctor, a neurosurgeon. But I remember I used to be artistically inclined also. I participated. Boarding school gives you the benefit of playing all kinds of sports. So, Ekta, you said you remembered me playing basketball. That comes from boarding school. I think I played hockey for Dehradun. I used to play right forward, and my job was to break chins and shins. But I was
No, I believe
also, but I was also a scorer, etc. So I think school really gave me a very broad education in that sense. And school में 12वीं में in fact NID का entrance exam paper was pushed at us. So I did in my 12th. My school offered me Wellham Girls, that is. You could do your 5 subjects and you could take extra subjects also. So not only did I have my physics, chem, bio, maths, I had taken up psychology, art, and something else, economics, I think, to gamble because जिसमें top marks आएंगे, those get calculated. So actually art scored me really high and psychology scored me high. Chemistry I screwed up. So, but that was school. So, a little bit of NID intro in school actually.
Mhm. So when you go to a boarding school, like at an early age, does this in your opinion, does it help you become an individual, like more of an individual? What does it do to you? And you talked about this syndrome and all. Was it also because of was there any kind of bullying which was there because of your size, or just generally? That's what I want to know.
Bullying hota tha, but all girls school, it's a little psychological kind of bullying. There's no major physical bullying. Independence 100% because you don't have parents to run to for any problem. You fight with a friend, you got to deal with it yourself. A teacher you're having a problem with you. But of course, our teachers were really good, so you could approach teachers in those formative years. And I was the smallest child in school. So I got lucky, a bit like NID ragging. Na, मेरे को ragging मेरी हुई नहीं. All the super seniors used to bring out for ice creams and cold drinks and pizzas. So in school also,
That you think
I got.
and
Huh?
NID, I don't agree. NID, I think they were scared of you. That's why they took you out. No. Okay. You talked about you wanted to be a neo sir, you wanted to mental health and
In
stuff like that,
neurology.
medicine, neurology. Now, how did NID happen? in the middle of all this. You were good at studies. Usually, the likes of me, who's like really bad at studies, they go into direction. So, yeah.
So I was sure I wanted to be a neurosurgeon, and I wanted to be at AFMC, I remember. And my mother kind of tricked me into this because she knew I was artistically inclined and she knew about NID. I think she had also done something with Ashok Chatterjee's niece in John Hopkins University. So she knew a little bit about NID. And she told me that, give NID and NIFT my entrance exam because वो January में होता है, medical exams start in March. You will get the hang of what it is like to be in a large hall with thousands of people. So I said, okay, I'll go give. And I went and gave. I got through both NID and NIFT entrance. And then she tricked me again. I didn't want to go any further, but she tricked me again and she said, why don't you go to NID now that you've gotten selected? Go do that interview, and even after the interview, join. We'll pull you out by the time medical results come. But I think she knew I had not studied enough for my medical exams. And she told me, she said, this is better than a BSc. So I said, okay, I was sure I'll get into AFMC. Good sure. But it didn't happen. And I remember while coming for that NID interview or something, my dad brought me by train, I think, and I refused to go. I was sitting on the platform and he had to give me one tight slap and say, get onto the bloody train and go to your interview. But first semester, I think by the end of the first semester, I was sold. All neurology and neurosurgery dreams had disappeared into all kinds of things within those NID worlds, I'd say.
Yeah, because I remember talking to you, like, because we got really pally, you, me, Ajmera and all, and then we were very excited. We got through an ID, but you didn't have that excitement at all. Like, it was like, ye to, I deserve this type of thing. Like, this is my second choice kind of thing. But how did it eventually affect you, like, as a person, NID, and the time that you spent, and then, the learnings that you got from NID? Because in the beginning there was seriously this approach, I don't care, like, even for your first jury, I remember I cried in my jury, and there was this Kataria who was sitting on these locker boxes with swinging her legs and talking to Sefu and all that as if it's some chai gate, and I was like, yeah, kya hai ye? How does it work? So yeah, just wanted to know how did it affect you, and like what do you make out of the learnings at NIT?
I think that foundation course that we had is so bloody solid, which later, Alan, thanks to you, I realized Bauhaus teachings when I went to that Bauhaus museum in Berlin. A lot of those courses are similar. But all that basics, Mahendra Bhai's course, that little dot in that square, I will never forget. The color exercises, I'll never forget. Even basic drawing with Nayak, GC, with Neelam. I mean, I think the foundation was so strong. That is what I use even today, every day, more than my video course learnings. I mean, I think, of course, once I took my specialization, the film history and film appreciation that Vinayan and Arun brought to NID from FTI, those were like brilliant. Um, and all learning outside of our foundation course, the resource center, even the monsoon fiestas were a learning. Getting to conduct one of those was a learning. Dealing with each other, the main gate was a learning. Dealing with each other's rubbish was a learning. So I think the foundation is definitely really strong, and at least especially in the production design end of my work, I really use it every day. And I think there's a translation of things like form follows function, for instance, or identifying a problem and then arriving at a solution. That kind of translates very easily into filmmaking for me. In design, form follows function would become the form is my visual design of the film, and the function being the script. And when I write, or even when I'm designing a film, what I do is I identify a theme that, suppose I'm designing, I've got a script, I read it, and it has to touch me in some way. It has to have a connect with me in some way. And usually I'll devise a theme of my own from it, which needn't necessarily be what the director is trying to say. And that theme becomes my form, as in my function, and I'm trying to constantly express this through my colors, through my composition, through the lighting, or whatever, in the overall visual design of the film. And similarly in writing, if there's a kira, there's something bugging me, there's something in my environment bugging me, and that becomes the sort of identify the problem. And now the rest of it is finding the solution. The writing process is finding the solution to deal with this kira of mine. Yeah? So, but even in like when I'm doing shitloads of research in a film like Byomkesh, which is really huge, uh, and I'm also making sets for the first time. I'm building trams for the first time, making a bus for the first time. Uh, I think my design process, that course that Ranjan taught us, comes into play. So it's become intrinsic sort of knowledge. One doesn't have to sit and go into it deliberately, but it's always playing in the back of one's mind. One small example, I remember on the film Shanghai. I don't know if any of you've seen it. It's a very political film set in the. It was meant to look pan India, anywhere in India, set in the. Actually shot in two small towns in Maharashtra, but there's a lot of political shit that had to go up, hoardings, buntings, this that. मैंने अपने crew being the workers, the boys, the carpenters, and those kind of things. I did that NID photography exercise because they did not understand lensing and they did not understand कि ये buntings कितने height पे लगाए हैं. अब रोज मैं उनको खड़े होके नहीं बता सकती थी. So I did NID photography exercise in Panchal. That cardboard mount board, you cut out that 2:3:5 aspect ratio and then you hold it near you. It's the widest lens. You take it away. It's the teliest lens. I taught this to like carpenters and set boys who are not educated and told them, look, now you look through this and understand that where your bunting should be, what kind of lensing we're using, and all these kind of tricks then helped me. Even color course, we had a course, I think it a song उठाना था, and we had to interpret it in color. That became my way for the first time when I did my first film, on Lucky.
हाँ
I had a color palette for the whole film.
मैंने भेजा
I remember showing that color palette to the
इसके
director.
साथ
The director was shocked. It was just little 5 mm strips of color, and for me, that was oil lucky. And he was like, "What the fuck? I don't. Oh, sorry, I don't understand this." And I was like, "Kuch nahi hota. You don't have to understand it. I need to understand it. My team needs to understand it. Costume needs to understand it, and I'll figure it out." But so these are the tricks I've used from NID.
Yeah, I think you sum it up with that one expression, when I design a film. You are not saying when I make a film. You said, you express yourself like that. When I design a film, I do this. So, but now, you talked about the industry, but you coming from NID, and usually, you don't see NIDians, at least at that time, you were not seeing NIDians moving into the film industry. Now, how do you break in? Like, what is it? Do you know somebody, or how do you get this foot in on this very, very crowded bus of talented people who are there already there in the industry? So, like, I would like to know, how did it all start?
So just going a little further back, right out of NRD, I went to a place in Delhi called Meditech Television, and I was doing 2 shows. And I remember they wanted to pay me just 5,000 a month, and I knew that was too little for a graduate from NID at that time. But I said, "Chalega, ghar pe baithe hain, kya farak padta hai? It's pocket money." But literally in 1 month, they bumped me up on their own to 8,000. In 2 months, they bumped me into 12,000 on their own because they figured this chick knows her shit. And but I had a terrible accident on one of the shows. I think a lot of us know. But so I quit that then, and I came to Bombay with actually a .com. I then joined a .com called Schoolnet India, and I was making tutorials, physics, mathematics, biology, that's what they had promised me, so that you'll get to make this. So join us. I joined them, moved to Bombay because that accident kind of shook my dad up a little. He was like, you can't be making films if this is how you have to live. But I came away to Bombay and I did some tutorials, but then I quit that place because I think the promise wasn't paid through. And I joined actually an animation house where I did these tutorials actually, and I did some packaging design for TV shows and stuff. I learned some animation softwares, but I realized I'm not doing what I really want to do. And I started, then kind of went out into the advertising circuit, which is actually, I've even started, an advertising agency with 3 other people. One of them I ended up marrying and he became my husband. But we did a few jobs. That agency went down. And then I decided I needed to break into the advertising circuit. And I used to go to ad agencies with my NID showreel, which was those 4 projects. Those people used to smile, but it never got me anything. And I remember meeting Pushy also. He was at an ad agency, but never really turned into anything. And then I figured that I have to assist, as in be an assistant director to directors probably. So I started meeting directors and I got, I think, a chance easily. And working with different production houses, different big directors in the advertising industry. And again, they noticed that I really knew my shit because I knew how to make a shot. So I could make a shot sometimes better than a director, have better suggestions. So the bigger production design studio, as in production houses, started giving me their smaller commercials to direct. And that's how I started directing smaller commercials. And so I was assisting big directors and directing small commercials myself. And somewhere there, then I knew कि feature film बनाने है या advertising इतना interesting नहीं है मेरे लिए. I have to get onto a feature film set somehow. And that time I think Ram Gopal Verma was still decent. So I thought I must work with Ramu. Oh shit, this will go on to a public platform. Sorry, edit kar dena Sajid, please, I beg you. Okay. And so I went and met them, and again they wanted to give me third AD at 8,000 a month. So I knew ki, no, yeah, I'm better than this. And I was continuing with my advertising, and one day at a studio called Famous Studio, I bumped into Dibakar Banerjee. He had made Khosla, but it hadn't yet released. And I walked up to him literally with the intent and knowledge, because I had figured something in the industry. You get to make your first film, no matter how bad your first film is, it gives you your second film. And it's the second that establishes you, or it doesn't. It makes a. So I knew this guy is going to make his second film. Abhi pehli nikli nahi, lekin second pakka banayega. So I walked up to him and said, I'm also from NID. I'd like to assist you. And I think it worked. He called me and I started doing things with his production house where I was multitasking. I was his assistant director. I was directing small commercials for him. I was sometimes his producer, sometimes his art director. And surely his first film came. It was a hit. I loved it also. And he was getting into his second film. And he actually noticed that this girl can design. So that really didn't come from me, because I was doing all that design for his ads. And he offered me Oye Lucky, and that's how the foray happened there. On Oye Lucky, I was the production designer and the first assistant director. For anyone who knows what that is, it's a superhuman task. So I've given myself Superman's chaddi for that. And then he offered me Shanghai. So I did that. Between that, I was directing commercials, directing music videos. And actually, he had a Byomkesh idea even when we did Oye Lucky. And us samay, he never thought he'll ever give it to me. he was always considering the really big shot art directors in the industry. But I think Shanghai and what I did with Shanghai sort of made him realize I can do Byomkesh. And with Byomkesh, I knew that this is my last film as a production designer. Because I knew if I do a good job, this is going to open the doors and windows that I need opened.
Yeah.
Every producer is going to listen to me and I can walk in with a script. So I took a year off after Byomkesh to write. For that, I studied how to write. I did some courses online. And yeah, and I continue to direct through all of this tiny commercials. Jungli Sher is a music video that happens shot on an iPhone, which really gets me noticed and things happen. Yeah.
Okay, you briefly touched upon this. I had it listed as a question that, how do you apply your learning in production design? But now that you talked about all these films, do you want to take us through one of the instances or one or two instances where it really, the design process and how did you apply it came into play? Would you like to take that?
Very briefly, I'll tell you about all, because without images, it can get boring.
No,
So
we are
again,
not bored. It's good like this. We have the visuals in the head. Yeah.
yeah,
We
okay. So, I mean, like, I'll just, if you've seen Oi Lucky and Shanghai, like I had a theme on Oi Lucky, which is a bizarre theme. It's my own theme, which is that our closest human relationships are the most antagonist. ये दिबाकर का थीम नहीं है Oi Lucky का, ये सिर्फ मेरा थीम है as a designer. And I try to interpret that theme through its color palette mostly in the film. And if you go back to Elaki, you'll see that I'm constantly playing with contrasting colors. The people that he doesn't gel with in the film, they're always on the opposite ends of the color wheel. There's a journey in his life where he's trying to infuse into society. There he takes on the color palette of the social norms, so he's merging into the world. So these are the kind of applications. But if I can just take Byomkesh for a while, because it's the biggest film I've done. So A, I did not know 1940s. B, I did not know Bengali, Calcutta. So it was important to get to know these two things. I also knew that I wanted to do a bloody good job. So I knew I needed lots of research. Luckily, the producer director gave me the time I wanted. I took 1 year to research it. I literally made, again, using those deep design process, made a matrix of kahan se kya kya mil sakta hai, listing that out, putting deliverables against all those parameters, which source I'll get what from. I identified researchers because I was sitting in Bombay, but I needed researchers in Calcutta. So I figured kaun karega, paisa kam hai. So I actually went to students, 3 final year students, 2 history, 1 English, because these are the kind of people I know who are used to taking in history, and literature students just take in. So these were people, and I had got my matrix of kya kya dhoondna hai, which I would send to them. And they would ply me with all kinds of data, visual, audio. I dug into every archive that there is possible. I read books. I met 97, 98-year-olds to collect all my research, dug into people's homes, their photo albums, their letters. So serious research. But I think that comes from also just, that fun of every film, you can live a new life. So not just actors get to do it. As a writer, you live a new life. And as a designer also, I can live a new life. And because I make choices as a designer, not as Vandana, but I try to get into the film, into the character's head and into the overall world. So character study karne ke liye it was important. So again, I'm studying the world of 1940s Calcutta, but I'm also studying the characters. What is a doctor, homeopath? What is Byomkesh? What are the cops like? And all, what are the goons like? All that. I actually did a crash course in architecture. I apprenticed a architect in Cal also. So like really just dig as deep as I can So much so that they were writing while I was researching. So I was sending some bits of fantastic research because I was reading newspapers of the 40s also. 3 साल के papers बैठ के पढ़े हैं library में. So I would find interesting things that are happening which we could situate into our film. So I would send it to the writer and the backer, and they would situate certain of those things. I also studied construction techniques क्योंकि मैंने कभी construct नहीं किया था इससे पहले. Backlot design, and I had to make vehicles also. So again, studying all those things, crewing up to do tech because I need tech drawings. So I don't do tech drawings, but I have to have crew that can do all that because you have to do tech drawings. So once you've collected all this research, then comes the process of, that you go on a location hunt, you find the right locations, you figure out what you want to do, and you start working on those locations. So sometimes you work immensely in a location, you break down walls and stuff, construct within it. In Byomkesh, we did both. We also constructed a huge set. Every exterior in Byomkesh, other than 2 streets actually, it's all a set. If you've seen it, that the boarding house where the whole story takes place, where all those characters, it's all a set. I literally built a mini city, which had North Calcutta, South Calcutta, and Middle Calcutta there. So yeah, so there's all this work that's involved. But I think what I learned on the job, which probably NID doesn't teach, is resource management, money management, time management. On Byomkesh, my crew is 300 plus at the time of building the set. So managing all those people. I'm a bit of an OCD, detailing ka keeda hai. I don't know if you guys have seen my film, so I can go into all kinds of details. My crew gets pissed off with me that you remember everything. And actually this memory only lasts at the work. Once the work is over, the brain frees up for the next thing. And I don't have such a good memory in my personal agendas, but it really comes through. I don't know if I've answered.
Yeah, you've answered that very well, and you touched upon something that I wanted to ask you.
One more thing I want to add. So I'm probably the only, so it's a little pat on my back, but I'm probably the only production designer in the industry who gets into the post-production. I get into the grading room, I get into the VFX room, I supervise the VFX, because for me, it's the entire design of the film. I don't want to leave it to just some stranger. So I like to sit there, and even though nobody else would do it here, which also means paying me a little more money for my time.
Yeah, I also seen artworks in your own house which are done by you, which were used in the film, because you go into that detail also. If the money is not enough, then you would personally make those artworks and frame them and put them in the sets. So yeah, you touched upon something that I'm really like interested in knowing, because see, I run an office, or Sajid, for example, runs an office, and we have this team that we have built up over the years. Yeah, but when you do a film, is it the same team that you work with, or you get a new team, and then when you get a new team, how does the dynamics work? You got to bully them, or how do you get the work done? Yeah.
So it is a new team every time. It's tough, and again I have to say it's a function of the fact that I have only done such little work. Actually, any other production designer in Bombay in the same time would have done 15 or 20 films. I've only done 3 because I'm choosy. A, I've said no to more work than I've said yes to. B, I give much more. So most production designers will spend 5 or 4 months on a film. I spend a year or 18 months on a film. So team is a new team every time. I get a kick out of it because you have to get all that work out of new set of people every time. Most other people, because they do so much work, they have the same team every time. So it actually gets easier. So I like to spend a lot of time looking for a team, sometimes 3 months also, depending on how big or small the project is. Because you are as good as your crew actually. I don't bully them. My art crew, in fact, the boys. So I have a really good. I think मैंने अपने father से सीखा है, but I have a really good relationship with the what would be called the daily wager force, the lower down force. They are allowed to put their arms around me, and in Bollywood that is not done. You touch feet now, but my boys can put an arm around me. It doesn't matter. So, but these guys, I think, and I have developed a really good. I think it's how I work with that. I don't have a hierarchical structure. I don't talk badly to people down. In fact, I am known actually, Alan, now that I'm known to bully the topmost. So the producer or the director. But the lower down gets treated really well by me.
Yeah,
Like I won't.
for ice creams and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like I won't eat khana on a set if my boys have not eaten food, So it's that kind of camaraderie I feel for them. Um, but it's tough also. Today, as a director, I'm realizing. So I used to say for a long while, oh, I don't like working with friends. I love to work with a new team every time. But my current film, I'm struggling a little bit. So I'm thinking that I need to reassess and say I'll never say never and try to hold a team that is good, that is loyal, that has the same ethics as me, if possible, same kida as us. Actually, it's damn tough, yeah, to find people like ourselves. I was a really loyal, really hardworking, Ji Jaan. Matlab, the job came before me. I have not yet found anyone like that, where the job comes
I
before
like
them.
people like ourselves. I really like that. Yeah, there's no other way to put it. Yeah. So that's a good way. Yeah. So we talk. You gave us a lot of insight on the serious aspect of things. I would like to know some funny bits that is that I know one with Konkana Sen, no? Konkana Sen. Yeah, you can talk about that, and you can talk about a few of these incidents that are there, but also in terms of we talked about you being chota and you being a woman in the industry, because I remember I did an exhibition about women in Indian cinema, and I covered you because I wanted to know the perspective of the women who work for the industry, not the heroines. I'm talking about the people who all aspects of filmmaking. So yeah, some stories which are a little light, funny. I don't know.
I mean, after Byomkesh, I did get told by I bumped what you said. I bumped into. We had gone to see the film, some of the crew, and I bumped into a group of Bollywood people, and so one of them introduced me and said, "Oh, by the way, she's the writer," and that actress turned around and said, "But you're so small." So I, of course, like an idiot, turned around and said, I'm not small here, which I hated later, by the way. What a dumb thing to say, I'm not small here. So
No, it's a
I
very
have been,
Kataria thing to say.
I've been told, I mean, I remember while working on Byomkesh, the focus puller used to tell me, wow, yaar, tum ladki ho, tumne ye kar diya. I should get pissed off. It's like, Naushad bhai, you're working with me. It's your second film. What are you saying? Like, stop saying such things.
Okay.
Like, long ago, an ad film, I think I was assisting some big director, and I won't again take a name, but a very big A-list actress. And she turned around and told me, wow, yeah, you're a girl and you work so hard. And I just looked at her, I said, but you're a girl and why are you saying this? Like, I don't understand it. So, and everybody works hard. So I have to, one stupid anecdote, which is damn stupid, is Oilaki had won the Filmfare Award and there was a after party and the everybody's of Bollywood are there. And this time I can take the name. So Priyanka Chopra had won the Best Actress Award for fashion, I think, that year. And she saw me because I had done some commercials. So she acknowledged me across the room. I acknowledged her. I thought, okay, I'm holding this trophy. She said, I should walk up to her and shake her hand. So I walked up to her to shake her hand. And later she says, babe, you're standing on my gown. I had walked up to her gown, standing on her gown, and I'm shaking her hand. So I'm a misfit in that sense in the industry. I do not, mean, I still have this same manner, so I do say the wrong things, do the wrong things at the wrong time.
Yeah. Yeah, you talked about this award, the Fair Award. You talked about the passion with which you work, no? So, there is some sort of an acknowledgement. How does it feel, like, when you win an award like that? Of course, like it'll do wonders to the career. I mean, I assume that. But how did it feel that time when you got the award for Oil Lucky?
Very frankly, later it felt good. I remember on that day, it didn't feel like anything. I remember Dibakar called me while I was in that venue saying, "Congratulations." I said, "I don't care about this. When is the next commercial you're giving me to direct?" So at that time, it was almost like you said when I joined NID and I looked unhappy in the beginning because it was like, uh, almost felt like this is not what I want to do. So I wasn't really excited about it. But it definitely opened a lot of offers. Like I had calls from I've said no to some of the biggest films because I didn't think I was meant for them. But I really got a lot of offers after each film. And it does feel good to be acknowledged, but I'll give you some inside info. I don't know if it's true or not. This is Bollywood gossip, guys. But I was told, see, we all have heard awards are rigged and awards are rubbish. And so I was told that usually at an award ceremony, if there's one big film taking away all the popular awards like actor, actress, musician, director, then what these are called, ours are called the technical awards. So the technical awards go to a Chotu film. So actually that year Oil Lucky picked up every technical award. So maybe they did a favor on us. I don't know. Having said that, Byomkesh I expected to win an award, and I won no award except one, I think, for Jagran Film Festival. Bajirao Mastani took everything away. But inside info says that we were in the order for national awards, but because Mr. Banerjee had given up his Oil Lucky National Award for the FTII fiasco, he was denied every award on his film that year. So Byomkesh picked up no award, neither costume nor cinematography, and many things are good about Byomkesh. So.
Yeah, but Byomkesh got you to Berlin. I like that.
Yes, Byomkesh got me to Berlin.
Yeah.
Yes.
So next, like I would like to ask you. You talked while you were doing the production design for Shanghai. I think, and you said that you knew that now this is the last time I'm doing it, or Vyomkesh, yeah. So now this switch to the bigger thing, like directing a film. Not only directing it, writing it yourself. Like how did that happen? And what is the process there? Like, you said that you walked up to the bunker and said that I would like to assist you in your next project or next film. But when you do this is too big a step. No? Like, I'm going to make a film now. So when and how did that happen?
So I have to say that I think Oilaki ke baad only I figured कि यार I must make my own film because I work too hard, and why should I work so hard on somebody else's film? But I had I didn't, and I had an idea, but I didn't know how to write. I wrote something back then. It was rubbish when I read it so many years later. It's absolute rubbish. Uh, but it's also a function of how this industry works. If you've not directed something in long format on your own, which you have written, there's no writer writing for you. There's nobody who's wanting to write for you. So there is no other way out but to write your first film. And so after Byomkesh, because I knew I have made a mark at some level in the industry, this is the right time. It's like make hay while the sun shines, or that metal gold wala jo bhi analogy hai. So and that's why I consciously decided that I am going to take a year off and I'm going to write.
Mm-hmm.
And I had written a few short films before. Actually, before Byomkesh, I was about to make a short film, which didn't happen. So I had written some shorts, but I had not written a long format. So I taught myself how to write. I read a lot of books and I studied. I attended 2 courses, online courses. and I did it. But I have to say it also, I think किसी ने मुझे ताना भी मारा था, some close friend, when I had said यार लिखना है, can you help me or something, and that person had turned around and said you can't do it. So that was perfect for me. You can't do it, just did it. And that got me there. But I have to say, what I wrote as my first film is I'm making now as my second film. And they usually say, your first film is personal, so it's easier, and your subsequent films become difficult to write. But Noblemen came my way. While I had finished writing the script, I was sending it out to producers, trying to shop with it. And I had also signed up with a talent management agency, which means I have managers now because I don't like to talk about money, etc. So they do that for me. So they told me about this project from Saregama Udli. They are producing small films, Vandana. They want to pick up content from the world domain and adapt them to the Indian context and make a film. Do you want to give it a shot? So I said, let me go meet them. I met them. They said, एक्सपेरिमेंटल फिल्म है, बहुत छोटी है, सिर्फ 1.5 करोड़ में बनानी है और सिर्फ 1 साल में बनानी है. And I had laughed at them. I said, dude, this is impossible. Because writing is the main thing. I've just spent 1 year writing a script and it's damn tough. And either you are idiots or I am a genius is what we're going to discover at the end of this. I mean, of course, first I said, no, it's stupid. Then I went back and I realized, look, this is a win-win situation for me. If I make a bad film, I've still won. I make a mediocre film, I've still won. I make a decent film, it's a bonus.
Okay.
So I thought, let's jump into it. And that exercise of writing commissioned to time, to a certain, I picked up Merchant of Venice and I adapted it, etc. We can talk about Noblemen separately, but that has given me, because I wrote to time and constraint and budget and all of that, it has really opened up some writing channels. I think I can pick up subjects and write a little more easily. I don't have to dive into my own life every time in that sense.
Okay. So, we talked about Byomkesh, and because of Byomkesh, you were selected as one of the young talents in Berlinale. That was 2016. And there something happened, and then you came back again for the Indo-German Film Week with your own film. So I would mention the name here. There was an ambassador called Gurjit Singh, right? So can you take us through that whole thing about being selected as one of the young talents and then coming back again to Germany with a film? Yeah.
So Berlinale, again, I got lucky. It was that year after Byomkesh. I think one day
Sorry.
One day after, on Facebook, on somebody's Facebook, actually Gitanjali Rao's Facebook feed, I saw the Berlinale entry, and it was the last day. And I just saw it, I was like, shit, yaar, ye to enter karna chahiye. And I read it, and I knew Byomkesh work is good, I can send good work. And I spent that night, had to cut up, I spent the whole night sending this damn thing. Went, luckily got selected. So apparently thousands from all over the world apply under different categories. I applied under production design and I got selected, and they run workshops and courses for you, which I attended. I had a blast actually. I saw more Berlin than I think I attended some of the courses. But and I went to one ambassador meet. Yeah, we all had to go. So that Mr. Gurjit Singh was a very good man, I have to say, because he said something personal to all of us while shaking our hands. I mean, it's a really good quality. So he shook my hand, and he shook my hand. He said, I see a fire in your eyes. Are you going to, something like that, he said. I don't remember. And I turned around and said, yes, I'm going to come back here again. I'm going to come back with my film. And it happened. Like I came to Berlin again with my film. So I think, Sajid, that's the power of the mind, like you had told us.
Yeah. So, I would like you to talk about Noblemen. Yeah. Because it is a very, I put it as a very difficult, hard film to watch, but a very important film to watch. I mean, I really, I came back, I watched the film with you here, and I came back and I didn't want to talk, for a very long time. It stuns you, it leaves you with this feeling that it's very hard to describe. I mean, I also cried at some point because, and not because it was emotional on a senti level. It was emotional on a very, very personal level because it's a subject which is very, very difficult. So how did you arrive on this film? Can you just take us through the film briefly, from your perspective? What made
So like
you?
I said, Sarigama had said, na, pick up something from the world domain. And I picked up Merchant of Venice. I wanted to do something completely different, actually, set in Bombay, in the world of petty thieves and chain snatchers and eunuchs and bar dancers. They had liked the idea, but then I only realized, yeah, 1.5 crore and 5-6 months of writing, it's never going to happen. The way I work, I know nothing about petty thieves and all that, so I'll take 6 months to just research it and probably needs 3 crores to make. So then they had actually somebody from Saregama said, Vandana, what about a boarding school scenario? And I thought of it for a moment. I thought this is quite perfect actually. I know the world, half of it, and it's contains, it'll be set in one school, so it will fit the constraints they've set upon me. And just as my process goes, I started first researching boarding schools today. I know my time, but I want to know what's happening today. So I spoke to a lot of young students and teachers and principals today to just understand what's happening in these schools. I already have my thematics of Merchant of Venice with me. So I have some idea of what I will do. I've written a 5-10 pages story, but I research it first. And after I've got all my research data is when I sort of got down to writing it. So for those of you who haven't seen much Nobleman, please see it, my first film. It's on Netflix. It is very difficult to see it on a day you're feeling happy or have something good to do afterwards. Uh, so, Merchant of Venice, if all of you remember, it's about the Jew and the Christians, right? That's the whole struggle between Shylock and Antonio and Bassanio. And it is a bit of a bullies because Shylock is constantly bullied by those Christian traders, etc. And one day he gets an opportunity to take his revenge, but the idiot that he is, this is how I interpret Merchant of Venice, by the way, and the idiot that he is, he goes crazy in his thought of revenge. Now I want a pound of flesh instead of getting 3,000 ducats into 3 times. So this is how I'd always seen Merchant of Venice. Now, a lot of people read it as a comedy. It is probably pushed as a comic play also. But for me, it was one of the most tragic Shakespearean plays where I see Shylock as the tragic hero who loses everything because of his desire for revenge. And this provided the base for a story that translates very easily. All male Venetian world, all boys boarding school. The Christians are the bullies and the Jew is the bullied. You have the seniors and the junior. Merchant of Venice also had homosexual undertones. Back then also people recognized it in the 12th century. So I have also used that. And I have now used the characters. So it is a film, guys, set in a boarding school. It tackles the subject of bullying, but not in a very conventional sense. I mean, I have to say I'm looking at 3 kinds of people and reactions in this film. When children are bullied, you'll have a child who tries to punish himself, suicide, it's or hurt themselves. Another reaction is you want to fight it the legal way, which means you'll complain to a teacher, which is the right way to do it. But there is a third reaction sometimes, which is the worst kind of reaction, when you're pushed to such a corner that it brings the demon out of you. So that were the themes, and I thought it works really well in our current social context, political context, Me Too context, I would say coronavirus context also. So please watch Noblemen.
Okay. Now we have this big feature length film we talked about. We go back to NID and we talk about this fish curry rice, one of my favorite films, because it's something which stayed with me for a very long time. And if I have to remember your work from NID, that's one work that I pick up. And now recently, auntie died. Auntie passed away, and there was this whole thing about finding that film. Everybody wanted to find that film, and finally, I think from the video department,
Not found.
me,
Meena.
Meena, so she found it, and it's such a pleasure to watch it. So I just want to, like, how does fish curry rice feel today, as like, with you being the filmmaker?
Well, La Bella was such a, I think for all of us, such a important part of the learning and growing up of NIT. Uh, and I spent a lot of time at La Bella eating, I think every week. And when I think when Vinayan, this is when Vinayan had come in and he had introduced us to a lot of documentary work. So I wanted to make a documentary, and I couldn't think of a better subject. I actually loved Auntie. Uh, yeah, I really loved her in some special way. I don't know, but so I thought this is perfect opportunity. I can be around her for days and weeks and train her, stay with her, and all of that. Uh, so when I saw the film. I actually, when I made it, I didn't think it was a good film at all, and I've never seen it after NID. When I saw it now, I liked it in some ways because it gives you a peek into her life that a lot of us, a lot of you guys did not see, how she lives and her church going and what she thinks about Lady Diana, because Diana had just died, and I love what she says about Lady Diana and that. And but the one shocking thing for me to see it this time was when I saw the end and the credits in big bold writing, a film by Vandana. I was like, oh God, this is that Napoleon, by the way. Today I will never put such a large credit. In fact, on Nobleman they wanted to write a film by, and I fought. I was like, you can't say a film by. It's not there's so many people who work on a film. Writer, director is enough for me. You don't have to say a film by. So, but yeah, I think I'm glad I made that film because we have this little memory of hers.
Yeah, I really would like to tell one story about Auntie. Auntie always asked me about Vandana kaisa hai, Vandana. So I would update her on like, what's happening with you. But one day she told me, na, ये Christian लोग सबसे अच्छा होते हैं. So I said, what do you mean? So ये अपना ना राहुल डेविड क्रिकेट कैप्टन देखो कितना अच्छा है because Christian है. So I didn't want to, like, break her heart कि ये डेविड नहीं है. So, anyways, we have. Can we take one last question, Sajid? Yeah. Okay. So we talked about your journey. Now, where you headed? Can you talk about the projects that you're working on and yeah, the future works?
Well, current film which I was shooting and it has been shut down because of COVID. I've shot 10 days, so I'm waiting to finish that shoot in Kerala. But I have two other scripts that I'm trying to push, slightly difficult scripts, so tough. So far, there's some series work that keeps coming my way to try direct, but I'm trying to develop a series. Bhi ek naya seekhna padega. I think it's a new ball game. I still haven't figured out the writing mechanism around series. But yeah, mostly that, and I want a farm, so I'm using Sajid's goal implementation tools, yeah, to grow my vegetables.
So I don't know. I would end this with a story from NID. The summer holidays. No, I didn't like going back home because home means 6 o'clock be inside and all that. NID was a good place to be. You make new friends. You find new people to flirt with and all of that. So there was this time when you have the summer vacation and the parents of the new people who are being interviewed. No, they come. On campus. So we were so bored that me and Kataria, we wore leather jackets and sunglasses and sat on one of these old bikes, probably Devashish car's bike. And we were generally waiting for questions because all these parents, they wanted to know how is NIT and all that. They looked at us and avoided. इनसे question नहीं पूछेंगे भाई, ये इनको जाने देते. In summer, leather jackets and sunglasses. सब बैठे हुए हैं दोनों. Mike face. So thank you, Kataria. I think we managed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sajid, I will never forgive you for tricking me into this. I've never done it. Yeah.
Yeah, I
You,
hope everyone was entertained and not bored. Yeah. So, that's all.
I am fine, but बाकी का पता नहीं है. बाकी से पूछ लेते. Sajid, over to you. You are on mute, Sajid.
Don't be rude, man. So we have just got some slides put together for Kataria, and Kataria, you can take us through some of these stories. So some of you know that there is a cute side also to that Gunda.
Yeah, that's
On
me
cutie.
at the age of 6 or 7 somewhere, and
Funny, sir.
the second from bottom left is me.
Oh,
So there is a bit of theatre and play and acting from childhood, I guess.
So my papa like father taught made you watch a lot of films. No?
Yeah, father made me watch the wrong films. Like I had seen The Shining by 7, I'd seen all of Hitchcock by 11. So those are also the reasons why I'm a slightly twisted person.
Wrong dad.
I think these are here for evidence of attitude problem. I can see them right here.
इधर दिख रहे हैं वो. Like first time I saw Kataria, I wanted to ask her, घोड़ा किधर पार्क किए? Like full cowboy kind of. Yeah.
This is when she almost married Pushi.
Yeah. Taj Mahal. When they were building their Taj Mahal.
We photoshopped the
So
fire.
unflattering, and just look at me. Don't ever wear a sari again.
Like I bought a somebody.
Darbar in cultural day, on cultural day.
Yeah.
this is a totally movie material shot.
I know I should share this with Pushi. Guys, please send it to Pushi.
That's Koshi pointing out where is Kataria.
Somebody asked Koshi, where is Kataria?
My conversation, yes.
This is when Kataria became happy after NID.
Not yet.
After this.
After NID, yeah. I became a happier person. See,
This is
smile.
how I know Kataria now. Like, full mellowed down. Somebody was writing on chat, she's mellowed down.
Yes,
वो
yes.
was always like this, but privately. But वो सामने में Napoleon था. Napoleon Dandapat. That's Sadith's joke from yesterday. That's the little bear in Berlin. It was very, very sweet to have her around. I think we were meeting after a very long time and spending quality time together. So we had fun drinking and yeah. Yeah.
Is there a way to read these comments later?
Yeah.
Yes, you will package.
How?
Sajid will send her.
Okay.
So that's us having fun at the expense of Berlinale.
And on the right, that's me posing at Byomkesh, the set. I think they're lighting. I'm standing in for lighting with all my props and all my cigarette holder and my cigarette and everything that I have fabricated.
You want to talk us through this?
Which one? So this is a one color palette. Actually, this is the color palette of Byomkesh, and just to show you, I'm I've numbered them that I can just tell, can you please use C52 and no questions asked. So, but this became easy. We were anal about it between the cinematographer, costumes, and me. We calibrated all our screens so that all of us are seeing this ditto same thing on our screens. So when some costume would call and say, hey, this character, this scene, Vandana, what color clothes do you want to give? Because I take care of color palette. Then I can just say, D is this or what. So block B and block F are actually essentially just Chinatown and Japanese color palette in Byomkesh. C is the females and Anguri, the femme fatale actually. And A became the colors of all the walls and the spaces, and E became same thing at night. I think something like that. I don't remember properly.
You've done Ranjan proud. He must be smiling somewhere.
But this is the most complex color palette I've ever made, actually, in many ways. So this is just a glimpse of the research, what all I had to collect. So just breaking it up, and all these heads I had to go under, specifically for Byomkesh. So just a glimpse of that. And where all to look. You can skip this basic. And this is shooting Noblemen. So that's me directing Noblemen. I'm also one of the directors. I don't sit behind a monitor. I stand next to the camera usually. So that's in the current film, what I'm shooting right now, which is stuck. Yeah, current film. Bas, na? Same.
एक style आने वाला है.
And I think there's one photo where you'll see the size difference between my cinematographer and me. I think वो है कहीं पे. This is stills from Noblemen, from in-film stills. This is also all Noblemen. I'm sure you can tell it's dark. All Noblemen.
That's the height.
So that's my DOP. And that's me. And I'm standing and I'm half his size from the current film. And I sometimes operate camera. So on the right top, that's me on Noblemen operating camera. Shooting the next image that's coming. I'm shooting that scene actually. Yeah, shooting this scene on that. This is current film. I think I'm shooting a song, so some stills from that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alan, I'm going to pause you from speaking. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pull in, surprise, I'm going to get Sheetal to give thanks and just summarize what happened today.
Yeah, Sheets.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Alan. And Vandana, I mean, we've been in the same city forever, and I've seen you once as my neighbor.
I'm a recluse. I swear I'm a recluse.
Thank you for such an insightful talk. I think it's really nice to get inside the head of where you come from, how you think, because all the films that these are films that we are all proud of. So it's so amazing that we know you and we know how you think. And I think you play down your role as a woman in cinema, and you use the word Bollywood too much. But it's a big deal. It's a huge big deal. I'm in some way connected with the world, and I think you played down a huge big deal. It's a great way to continue by playing it down. So I understand that process because that's how I do it. But when you're talking about it, you gotta tell everyone that damn, you're fucking awesome. So let's tell you that you're fucking awesome. That was amazing. It was such a great thing to just sit and listen and absorb. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Just a quick one, Alan. I had to really bully him to get him to do this, but you were a professional, dude. You were better than Arnab Goswami, man. You're like.
Thank you, man. That is.
Arnab Goswami is the new Rakhi Sawant.
Yeah.
He is not NA, not applicable.
NA, yes.
But Alan, you were a professional man. The way you actually got, because in this format, I think the host plays a really important part to make the person speaking comfortable. It doesn't come across like the format for this is not a formal presentation sharing work, but the whole thing was designed to get into the mind or the inside or what makes the person, what are the vulnerabilities. So I think that to draw that out, it takes a lot. So thank you so much, Alan, for the amount of homework and preparation.
Yeah, but you were a part of it, so thank you for I said no, but then he said you cannot say no. So then I said, okay, there's always a first time. And then thank you for preparing. And Vandana also, like, we worked on this together. So thank you. I'm not comfortable doing this. Yeah. Not at all.
And Vandana, you were really inspiring to see that story from, like you said, no, the pocket-sized Gunda PhD, as Alan says, to making us also proud and the awards and the films which you're doing, and very inspiring. Thank you so much.